This video will serve as a general guide for Finder of Paths Unseen in the Spirit Island board game. The Spirit is unique in that we aren't really allowed to destroy invaders, so the primary way to play the Spirit is to move invaders around using the extensive movement effects from the Spirit's special rules, innates, and power cards. To remove invaders in a solo game, you have to maneuver and protect Dahan so they can destroy the invaders with their counterattack. In a solo game, our strategy is to avoid blight by moving invaders around the board until we can get more powers with Fear Generation, Defense, or huge damage cards, where the destruction of a lot of invaders all at once is worth getting rid of presence. The Lay Paths They Cannot Help But Walk innate has two immediately helpful tiers of activation. The first tier pushes half invaders rounding down, meaning there needs to be at least 2 invaders in a land to push one out. Because this power is also fast, the moon part can't be used on turn 1 to get rid of a single explorer. The second tier is to push a single invader out of a land. It is important to note that an invader is any of the white pieces that represent invaders, so explorers, towns, or cities all count as one invader piece. The second innate is Close the Ways, which isolates lands. In brief, Isolate is useful for preventing new explorers and controlling expansion of the invaders. If you have a spare Isolate effect and no obvious place to use it, just place it in a land with no explorers if possible. Let's take a look at the starting cards. Our Circuitous and Winding Journey pushes half rounding up, so we can use it to push a single invader with this card. Paths Tied by Nature pushes 2 invaders, but it goes to the same terrain. So we deal with one land at the cost of adding more invaders to the same land type. I like to pair Traveler's Boon and Ways of Shore and Heartland together, since they both have a water element. With the Uncovered Earth element, this pairing lets us isolate 2 separate lands in one turn. Aid from Spirit Speakers and Offer Passage Between Worlds pair well together due to their Dahan-centric effects and sun elements. Because Dahan are important to the Spirit's playstyle, one of our priorities should be to get our presence on lands with Dahan, so that we can move them around to counterattack explorers when possible. A quick note, the wording on Offer Passage Between Worlds doesn't have a time limit on when your Dahan may be destroyed, so you can have this effect up on multiple lands at the same time. Based on the wording, I would also think you can stack this effect on a single land, but someone may have to clarify that for me if that's not the case. The starting 6 power cards cost 4 total energy to play. Ideally, we want to play 2 cards each turn to activate innate powers, but this gives us only 3 rounds of cards before we have to reclaim, assuming we use the growth option that gives extra card plays. When I look at the Spirit board, my first inclination is to uncover the sun element on top, then the moon element, then the air element. However, if we play 2 cards each turn, this means we won't be able to play 2 cards on a reclaim. This means we need to play 1 card on turn 1 and gain energy using growth 4, most likely Circuitous and Winding Journey. This also gets the 4 energy needed to play all our starting cards, since we need to get the +1 card play with growth 2 on turns 2 and 3. Turn 4, we can reach the +1 card play and gain another power card. You could also make things work by uncovering the Earth element on the bottom. The Earth element allows you to use your isolating innate more consistently in the early game. Because the +1 card play is closer using this growth order, you can either play 1 card on turn 1 or 2 cards on turn 1, depending on how you want things to go. I'll show some example play here. In this sample playthrough, playing 2 cards on turn 1 with the Earth element lets me sacrifice some Dahan and a Blight to have a relatively clear board, as opposed to 1 card play on turn 1, which allows more invader actions, but keeps the Dahan. The 1 card Earth opening plays similarly to the Sun element opening, except the turn 4 growth order on the track is more flexible. After reclaiming, we need to focus on gaining more power cards to work towards a win condition. You can either get some consistent Fear Generation, Dahan-centric powers, or gather invaders into one land and wipe them all out with a large damage major power. With effective use of Isolate and pushing effects, you hopefully can prevent a good number of invader actions, so the total number of invaders on the island remains somewhat low. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.